Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you guys so much for joining me here with Lori Williams. How are you, Lori?
I'm good. Thanks for
I,
having me.
yeah, I'm so glad to have Lori on. She's actually a neighbor in our state anyway. She's right down the turnpike with her husband Vince, whom I've had the opportunity to spend some time with. He's awesome as well. But I wanted to have her on to share her book, Castleberry Cove. Look at that. And look at that cover. It's so magical. I love this cover.
It has a good vibe, doesn't
Oh, it
it?
really does. I was just staring at it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to go there so bad. Look at that, you guys. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
good. I'm glad. That's kind of the emotion I wanted it to evoke, so that's
Yeah.
good.
And I love the way the book is set up as well. Actually, let's just play this trailer really fast and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Are you ready to escape on a poetic retreat for your soul? Then check out Castleberry Cove, Poems for the Journey by Lori Williams, published by Planet Castleberry Press. Whatever journey you are on, this poetic path you are about to take in Castleberry Cove will offer navigation throughout the ride. Inspiring, evoking, and thought-provoking, Poems for the Journey is sure to spark your own soul to ignite and grow. Castleberry Cove tackles the shifting journey of awakening to your true self through a 6-part expedition that is relatable to anyone seeking to tap into their full authenticity. Whether you're in a transitional shift in your life or simply want to cozy up with words that comfort you, this is the getaway that your soul never knew it needed until now. Available on Amazon November 11th, 2022. Go check it out now.
That is awesome. I love the book trailer. And it came out on 11/11/22.
Yeah, on purpose.
Right.
Yeah. Affordably priced at 844. So it's all been very intentional of the numbers and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, well, our community will definitely understand. We're all about the numbers here. 11,
Yeah.
11.
Yeah, exactly. Those are my numbers. So yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Well, I love how the book is set up. It's set up like a journey, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so funny because it, universe always provides, right? So I'd had this topic on my mind and to discuss about having like multi-dimensional sort of perspectives about things,
Yeah.
and then you came along and I'm reading this book and I'm like, this totally does it. It like really. The further you get in your journey, the more you realize that you have to sort of be able to take a 3D perspective, a 4D, a 5D, and like higher and higher. And there's like all of these different layers. It's like,
Yeah.
because there's one layer where like everything's always fine. You could be like freaking out down here and like, oh, it's okay. This too shall pass, right?
Yeah.
But like between those two layers, there's all of these other layers. And I loved as I was reading that how it like really sort of seamlessly merged those different dimensions, and it was totally
Mhm.
inspired. So I'm like, oh, this is a person to discuss this because this is a perfect time with so much going on in the world right now, and
Yeah.
needing to bring peace to those around us. And if we can take that highest road of this too shall pass, and that the peace that surpasses all understanding, which
Yeah.
the writings get into that. It's like it merges those lower and higher thoughts together, which is really difficult to do. It's one of the reasons why it's like hard to even talk about anything because of bringing those together. So,
Yeah.
is there anything about the journey? Tell us how like you started this book. Like
Yeah.
how you were first inspired.
I love everything that you just said because that's exactly the intention that I put behind it. So the fact that you were getting that as a reader,
Hmm.
like it just raises the vibe because yeah, it's funny to the layout of it that you mentioned that actually a lot of it came through kind of it was like through automatic writing. I really believe my guides were just channeling that all of this through me
Hmm.
because a lot of the poems were written very quickly. They were just would come to me and I would just kind of write it down, go back and reread it and be like, whoa,
Yeah.
and so the table of contents, it was funny because I actually was thinking about, how do I want to lay this out? Because each of these poems, there is a theme with some of them, and I could see how they were connecting. But I was like, what's the best way to present this to the reader so it's not overwhelming, but it takes them through their own journey as well.
Mhm.
So I literally woke up from a dream, which we can talk about dreams. I'm a big dreamer, manifester, and all that. And that table of contents was just in my head, all 6 of those parts. And the fact that they all started with an E, and then the flow of it, energy and emotion and enough. And because that is the journey, you go through that wrestling with emotions, and then you kind of go into that enough phase where you're like, what's going on? And
Yeah.
then, you start to understand energy, and then you move into escape, excitement, and then eternity is kind of how the flow of it is. So yeah, I just love how that connected for you as the reader, and you could feel that through line, and the frequency of the words, because I really do believe that the words have a frequency to them.
Absolutely.
There's several of them, probably in the escape chapter mostly. There's a lot of those. I go back and reread them often because they just bring such a peace and a comfort to me. When you're kind of in that chaotic feeling of the stress of the world or whatever, and it just instantly just calms me right down. So
I haven't made it that far, but it's like as I was reading, I'm like, I'm just going to have to go back through it later again because it's like one of those books that you really want to think about it. You want to like
yes,
kind of like let it sit with you and not move on yet because there's so much there. You know what I mean? So as I was reading through it, I felt like I was rushing it just by continuing, not even by, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm gonna have to come back and like, because it's one of those
yeah,
books you will be able to pick up in the future and just read a poem here and there and
yeah.
just almost intuitively. I even did that. I was like, let's just intuitively open it and read,
Yes, yes.
and it was so beautiful. Just the whole experience of doing that. It was
Yeah,
cool.
I'm glad you said that too, because that's kind of what it's meant for as well. Kind of that cozy read in the morning with your coffee or before you're going to bed. And I often do that myself. I'll be like, which one's kind of like resonating with me? And then I'll kind of flip to it and it just speaks to me. And
Yeah.
a lot of other people are saying the same thing that you said. They'll send me snapshots of a screenshot and they're like, this one, this one. So yeah, it's cool.
I love that because it allows the synchronicity or the universe to, play out. I tell everybody all the cool stuff's hidden within what we call randomness because nothing's really random, right?
No, it's not. Nope.
So I understand because I did the doodle behind me the same way, and it's like it just flows through, and then you look back at it and you're like, wow, and so I can imagine doing the same thing within, the written word as well. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's so affirming, because you're like, I think this is coming through. I think this is what I want to say. But when you just kind of stop the processing and analyzing and you drop down into that space where all that intuition and insight is coming in, and then when you go back and reread it, it's like that connects, like that has a deeper meaning than what I really thought I was setting out to write this poem about, So yeah, it's such a cool experience, intuition and how it all works.
So it started with a dream, and in the dream, you knew it was going to be a book. It was sort of laid out in the way.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it started with like writing the poems. It was just I had been trying to write like a children's book, and I was going that path under my brand, Planet Castleberry. I had kind of been wanting to go that route, and then it was just like it wasn't working. It just kind of had come up against roadblocks and stuff, and I was like, this is just not sitting quite right. And so then all of a sudden, I mean, I've written poems and stuff in the past, but it's never been like my thing. I've just been more of a writer. But during my meditations, I just started writing these poems, and I would just knock out like 4 or 5. And, then I would tell Vince, and I'm like, you got to hear this. And he'd be like, what is happening over there? Like, whoa, he could tell I was, definitely in a space. And so, yeah, they all just started coming together, and it was the path of least resistance. And I just kept going that direction. And yeah, dreams, a lot of the poems are from my dreams. There's many, and trying to capture that visual imagery through the word of what you see
Yeah.
in a 5D dream or something. That can be challenging, but
Yeah.
I was able to, start to just again drop into that space and then let it flow. So yeah, it was just a whole kind of collaborative
So
effort.
even writing it was a journey, right?
Absolutely.
And then reading it is another journey for you to
Yep.
return to. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So tell me more about the dreams. What kind of dreams do you get? First off, do you get like prophetic dreams and?
Yes, I'm getting like full body chills as you're saying that. I get it all. I've been a heavy dreamer ever since I was a kid. That it's always been a thing where I would wake up and remember them, and they were so vivid and realistic. And I would tell them to my parents or whoever as a kid, and they would just be like, "Okay, wow," And but as I've become an adult and as I've awakened fully, my own spiritual journey, they have just gotten even more like precognitive. I'm having a lot of those where I'll have it's a good friend that passed away earlier this year. He comes to my dreams quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kept happening like over and over and over. So finally I was like, I think I have to like say something to his family, like because I'm friends with his family. And so I finally it was so precognitive. Every time I'd have a dream about him, first thing when I'd look like on Facebook for the day, it would be his birthday or his kids' birthdays or the anniversary of his passing or something to that effect. It was always something connected to his story, and I was like, this is not coincidence anymore. And so then some of the things in the dream I started telling his family, and they'd be like, oh yeah, we did that. Or yeah, that was like, it was a red wagon came through and I was like, he was showing me this. And they were like, yeah, we used to do that all the time. That was one of his favorite activities, so different
Wow.
things like that. And so that has happened. I've had where I've seen something happen and then the next day or the day later, I'll be in that scenario and that person will be saying something. And it's like I've already been prepped for the convo or so I'm not
Right.
caught off guard. And so I know how to
That's
handle this.
wild.
It is wild. So that has happened.
Has that
Just
been something your whole life that's happened since you were younger?
that, not as much that precognitive part. And maybe it was, and I just wasn't dialed in,
Right.
maybe I just wasn't tapped in to understand and kind of pick up on that. I pick up on everything now. I've always been an empath, very clairsentient. That's probably my most dominant, but at night, it's like they all turn on. All the clairs are in high alert. I'm very clairvoyant at night when I'm dreaming. But yeah, I've had dreams where we've like shifted or there's been a flash or whatever you want to call it. And had, kind of woke up and been like, it took me like, 20 to 30 minutes to kind of reacclimate back in because I was so there.
Right.
And things were so vivid. It was like I was seeing everything in 5D of what it looks like and what it feels like, manifestations. There's been some really, really cool ones like that. So, yeah, it's just crazy. There's other ones I get where I won't necessarily know what they mean. Like I'm getting a lot of weather dreams, like I kind of mentioned to you.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly what that's in regards to yet. I keep getting this dream with 6 to 7 tornadoes that I keep seeing like on water.
Mm.
I actually just had that again last night. So,
Like a repeating or a reoccurring
yeah,
dream?
it's
Wow.
it's the second time I've had that one, but I've had 4 weather dreams now in the past, I'd say 6 weeks, of like bad weather, where it's either like floods or ice storm or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them, my grandpa came and showed me in the dream a floodlight. And he was like, and I was lucid dreaming. I actually woke up and I was like, I'm awake right now, but I'm asleep in my bed, aren't I? And they were like, yes. My grandparents were there, like gave me
Wow.
everything. And I was like, so I need to pay attention to this. And they're like, yes. And so my grandpa was showing me a floodlight. And I was like, okay. And he was like, you just need to know what this is and how to install it or whatever. The next day is when Hurricane Ian hit in Naples, and my cousin lives in Naples, and her house was completely flooded.
Oh, man.
So, it's just stuff like that, it just keeps happening. I'm like, okay, there's something to this.
That's awesome. So, tell me about like one of the event dreams, one of the flash dreams. Did you have any that like were the same or recurring with
Um,
those?
there's similar themes. The most vivid one, that just, I mean, it still sticks with me. And I wrote it down. It was 8 pages. I wrote it down after I woke up because I just was like, I do not want to forget this feeling. I don't want to
Right.
forget any of these details. And so I'll try and make it brief because it can get lengthy, but it was where Vince and I were in it. And all of a sudden there was this flash event, the power went out. We were in like a tower, like in a building. It was like we were high up at some meeting or something. And it went dark, like outside really quick. And then the power went off and there was like this flash. And then we were all going back down. And so this is what was interesting. It's like we go down and we go into this space. I'm kind of leaving out a couple of details just for sake of time, but we go into this space and it's like I was looking at everyone, and those of us that were awakened and everything, like we were looking at each other and we were like, we know what's happened. Like we have shifted, we have flashed, whatever you want to call that. And we were in the 5D, but we were not out in the 5D yet. We went into this, like, I call it kind of like a training area. Kind of looked like a giant mall almost, but everything was glassed in around us, like all these glassed in windows. It was really pretty. And out those windows, I could see, and I don't know if it was like a different dimension, each window that I was looking out of, but I could see a different scene out each window. But it was so vivid. It almost had like glittery, sparkly, like light burst around everything that you saw. So like the trees and the mountains, like whatever scenery you were looking at or dimension, it was like glowing almost and sparkling. And it was just gorgeous. So I was seeing all of that. And so that's, again, I was so excited. I was like, we made it. We did it. We've ascended. We've, done the deal. And so in this training ground, what was so cool and the feeling that I had in it, we were basically like testing out our powers before we actually were going to go outside into the 5D. So that was pretty cool because those of us that were awakened, we were just kind of like, this is pretty wild. Like, cause there were still like people there that weren't fully like getting it, like they were still very kind of confused. And so we were helping them and saying like, it's okay. This is what's going on, but they were a little dazed and kind of like trying to sort themselves out. So, but the manifestation, and it was one of the most powerful feelings that I've had ever in a dream and even in the waking. I've been able to kind of just tap into that energy in the waking life to then manifest things. But we were starting to test that out and looking around. It'd just be like little things at first, like, oh, I want to manifest, food or, a Snickers or whatever is something small. And then we would see how easy it was. And it would just start to appear. And then anything you wanted to experience, it would start to appear and you would just like go right into it and have that experience. And there was just so much ease to it. It was, the manifesting was not hard. It wasn't, everything just came very natural, very flowing. And so that was just such a cool feeling, to just be like, wow, everything that you kind of want to do and be and see and have, you can. And it was just so natural. So yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have a lot of dreams that kind of have that training feel about them like that? Because I've had a few like that where it felt like we were learning to fly or whatever.
That was another one. We were learning how to fly and we were teleporting. So we would try that out and stuff like that. This is the first one I've had where I feel like it was kind of like a training ground or whatever. It was just to kind of get our feet wet before we like went out there into the fight. It was almost like
the simulator almost.
Like, the simulator to kind of be like.
People say this is a simulation, but that almost seemed like the simulation for real life, didn't it?
Yes, that's what it was. Because it was like you had to kind of, just get acclimated a little because our systems were adjusting and we were, trying to kind of ground in and everything before we were actually going to go out there. And I woke up right before we were going to walk outside. And that's what was so cool. I was like, okay, maybe next time I'm going to dream that we walk on out. Let's go experience that. But yeah,
but you got to bring that feeling with you, right?
The feeling was, and it was just wild. Like when I woke up, that's what was so weird because that's how I know, like I was gone because when I woke up, I was coming to, and I thought it was real. Like I had to kind of sit there for a minute and was like, did that actually happen? Like I needed to go like look outside and get myself kind of like back oriented a little bit. But I was buzzing that day and had lots of confirmations. This is interesting, a little side note. So I see praying mantises anytime like something bigs happening in my life.
Right.
And so that day, after I woke up, I was like, I know I'm going to see one. I just know it. And so I went and made breakfast, came back in, and on the patio door where they normally are, there was one right there. And I was like, okay.
It's almost like you manifested it there.
I don't know. It was really wild. I don't know if it's that law of attraction. I was wanting to see one and he just appeared. But
Right.
it was, for me, when I saw it, it was just because I had been saying, like, was that real? Did I see this? Did I just make that up? And I was like, okay, let me just get some confirmation here. And then whenever, and I took a picture, of course, sent it to everybody. It was like, the praying mantis showed up. So yeah, it's pretty cool just how the universe talks to us, giving us those signs and synchronicities.
Like,
Yeah.
how long ago was that dream, that sort of flash event dream?
That was 8 weeks ago.
Oh, that's
About
pretty
that.
recent.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's been recent. It was like there was a lot going on for me, like at the end of this summer, kind of early fall.
Hmm.
I've been having just a lot of synchronicities, a lot of manifestations. Things are moving very quickly. A lot of changes for the good that have been happening. So yeah, we've had an uptick of energy
Yeah.
of coming in that's helping us big time, kind of get us to where we need to be. So yeah.
Well, how long have the event dreams been happening? Um,
Oh gosh, probably like drastically this year, mostly. Had some last year, but it's definitely increased this year for sure. They're getting
wow.
closer together. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So, is there any other dreams you've been having besides the event dreams?
Oh gosh.
Do you have like more personal ones too?
Yeah, I was gonna say personal ones. I have a lot of like kind of just depends honestly, like of what I feel like as far as like different energy waves that are kind of coming in,
Mhm.
around new moons, full moons, like if I'm kind of clearing trauma or I'm working through something or I'm kind of working through something in the past or whatever. I have a lot of that. I've been having a lot of dreams about my like middle school and high school, like a lot of friends.
Mhm.
And it's weird, like acquaintances that I wasn't really like that good of friends with and
Mhm.
whatnot, but they're popping up in my dreams. So that's kind of bizarre. But yeah, I'm having a lot of that kind of stuff. So it's almost like a clearing out
Yeah.
of, unpacking everything and then just kind of clearing out, making sure that I'm just like in my full, resonance of potential of where I want to be. So
Right.
anything that's been holding me back or anything that maybe was, causing me resistance or whatnot, it has been clearing through dreams. So,
That's
which,
awesome.
yeah.
I forgot when I was chatting with Vince, I got to talk to you about the Mandela effect a little bit
Yeah.
too. So let's talk about that. What was your first big Mandela effect that sort of made you realize it's happening?
So, well, Berenstain Bears
Oh,
is
okay. That's a big
I
one.
think that is for a lot of people. I remember when I saw that, I think I was like scrolling through Facebook or something, and somebody, because I'm in like a bunch of 80s groups, because I love 80s vintage toys and books and all that kind of stuff. I collect that. And someone had posted that in one of the groups, like a cover of the Berenstain Bears. And I'm like, whoa, they must have got that wrong. Like it's not Stain, it's Stein.
Right.
So, yeah, that one tripped me out. Like that's when I started looking at everything and I was like, what is this Mandela? What is this? And this was, a while back before I kind of knew everything. And so,
Like
when
years ago that you knew
yeah,
that?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. That was because I didn't know, what all that stuff was until I started awakening and studying everything.
Right.
And yeah, when I saw that, I was just like, what is happening with this?
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then I think the other one that really threw me was the Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
That one blows my mind because I'm like, that is not his
Right.
name.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
So
100%er for me too, for sure.
mhm,
But there's a ton of them,
there
from
is.
like Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. That's one that seems like everybody's heard of Stouffer's stovetop stuffing that I
Right.
ask. And it's like, nope, never existed. Now it's always craft, for those who don't know.
Yeah.
And it's not like they bought them out at some point or anything. So it's a really strange phenomenon. And it's definitely helped with my awakening to
Yeah.
just realize the possibilities, like the fact that you woke up and you were looking around and wondering if you shifted. I mean, the fact that we even know that's possible, right? I
Yeah.
mean, because there's people that like, you don't even realize you're shifting all the time. But
Yeah.
but we're actually shifting all the time. And I think you're like tapping into some of that with your dreams and stuff.
Yeah, I think that because, my my human side, or however you want to call that, it can be very logical, very analytical, all that kind of junk. And so for me in the dream state, that's when my brain shuts off. That's
Yeah.
where the insight and the intuition can come in because I'm not getting in my own way. So
Yeah.
that's something I'm working on in the waking life is to, stop getting up here in the mind and dropping down into kind of that. I always have to almost kind of go down to my feet and push all that energy down there to get out of my head so I can really feel that intuition and have that come through. So, yeah.
Yeah, I always feel like I can't believe I was able to see the Mandela effect. It took me like a year, but I'm just, you don't trust your memory and you overanalyze it. But,
Yeah.
once I saw that statue that I just couldn't get beyond the thinker for me, like
Yeah. I
really
talked
cracked
to
through.
someone else who said that too. That was a big one for them where they were like, that statue. And I was like, I mean, that was a good one too. I think there's just certain ones that we connect with, more. But and what's weird is, like when people pull up their books, like on the Bears Bears, like from the 80s or whatever, and they're taking screenshots of it and they're like, no, see, mine says that. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. That's not how it works. So trust yourself, trust your memory.
That is so true. And I think with me, I remember seeing the Thinker in the New Way when I saw it, and I was like, yeah, I know this version, but where's the other version? And then you go looking for the other version because you figure somebody just did one similar to it or something,
Yeah.
but then you can't find it. That's why I had to Photoshop a version of it. Like I gotta like bring it back somehow,
Yeah.
because you want
I
to
know.
find it in a Google image and it's just not there.
I know. It's like screenshot, screenshot.
But I'm glad I did that because a lot of people have like actually reused that, and or you come across it when you go to look for it. You're like, here's the one, and then you see it says, "Man, well, what's this Mandela effect?" So
Yeah.
I almost did it just to help people who are looking for it see it
Yeah.
and know they're not crazy that it's not there
Yeah.
anymore, right? What
Yeah. It's so important. And yeah.
What about personal like reality shifts or Mandela effects? Do you ever get those sorts of weird shifts in your own personal reality?
Not a ton. I mean, sometimes like things will happen or whatever where you're like, I know I already did that, or like, how did that get there type of thing. Like
Right.
that has happened. But not like a ton where I could, say like this is a routine thing or, whatever. But I have other people that I've talked to that they'll tell me, that kind of stuff all the time. I'm like, I believe it. It's definitely a thing where we are shifting and jumping, and time is definitely not linear.
Right, not what we think for sure.
Mm-mm.
What
No.
about the sensations of? Have you had any of what we talk about with like really strong deja vu or childhood memories coming back, or have you experienced with that? Like energetically, I guess recently.
Yeah, like for me, it's not. I don't know if it's so much childhood memories. It'll be more of like connecting things that I did as a kid, and now I see. I'm like, oh, I see why I was like that, or I
Okay.
was I was labeled as this emotional or this or that or whatever, and it's like no, like I've been an empath my whole life and not knowing that I was picking up on other people's feelings and other people's energies and thinking all of that was my own. And so it's been things like that where I'm starting to like think back of my past and everything. And I'm like, oh, that situation makes so much more sense now of why I acted like that or why I perceived that way.
Right.
Because it wasn't me. It wasn't my energy. It was somebody else's sadness or their anger or whatever. And I was, just pulling all that in. And so once you kind of learn what an empath is and how to work with that, that has been a game changer for me. Just with your own physical health, mental health, everything, you can start to realize I don't have to keep taking on all of
Right.
this excess emotion and energy from people just because I can feel it. So,
So a lot of connecting the dots,
A
basically.
lot of connecting the dots. Yeah, I have a lot of that. I have I have memories, but this, I mean, it sounds out there. I don't know if it's definitely coming from like a other origin,
Right.
like before here. I'm starting to get some of that. So starting to work through some of that. That's starting to come in.
That's pretty
So
exciting. Do,
very
do you have any idea of like your origins before here?
definitely Pleiadian.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
definitely, there's such a strong connection there. A lot of confirmation I've gotten on that too. So yeah. What about you?
I think Vega originally,
Yeah.
near the Lyrans or Lyra or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a galactic historian or whatever, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely have the connection with the Pleiades and sometime in Orion, according to
Yeah.
the Akashic records, but
Yeah.
I don't know, I think
I
I've
know.
had quite a few here too as well
Yeah, I
around.
think we've probably all been everywhere at some point,
Yeah.
so to some degree, but yeah.
Well, how much has doing your writing the book and writing these poems, how much has that actually helped you connect the dots? Because it seems like you've probably had lots of like insights come through while you were like rereading what came through, right? Like
Yeah.
wow, what a confirmation.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's hard to explain because I've had like you, I've kind of had like different like readings or things like that or whatever, and the different things that I've been told, by people that I trust or whatever, whether it be the numerology of my birth date or this what they're getting from the Akashic or what's coming through, whatever, it all syncs up. Like everything syncs up and it syncs up to what I've been thinking and feeling. So some of the poems and stuff, as I would write them, especially like I said, some of the ones in the escape chapter, they seem to feel so familiar. And so it's hard to kind of like explain that fully, but when you read them, maybe it'll maybe it'll connect with the frequency. But the it seems to me like that kind of, it's more again the feeling that I get. It
Yeah,
just familiar and confirming. I see the number 44 all the time, or 144. I see that all the time.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, so there's actually a poem in there for 44.
Oh, awesome.
Because it was just, I mean, it's so constant all the time, that I was like, I'm going to have to write a poem on that. And it did. It just kind of came through and flowed. But yeah, I mean, I think I think that part's still like kind of evolving and it's starting to all kind of come together. So maybe book two will,
Right.
will be some of that stuff. But yeah.
Was writing a book like on your bucket list of things to do?
Yeah, I mean, I love to write, and that's I just love the power of words and communication and all of that. In my day job, I do a lot of writing and things like that, and have in the past. So it wasn't necessarily like a bucket list item, but I kept feeling like my team, my guides were just like, "Let's go! Like it's time to go." Like you've been doing all this work, you've been doing all this, studying and research and awakening and all these things, and it's go time. Like it's let's get some things going. So I had created my podcast earlier in the year of Planet Castleberry, and that was a whole thing, and that allowed some good stuff to flow through, and was doing that audibly. But then it kind of feels like that chapter is closed a little bit, but the brand is still there.
Hmm.
And then that's when this book and the poetry started flowing. So it's kind of like, here's the next evolution of what you're going to do. And then I kind of feel like, doing more guest slots and speaking and things like that is kind of that next evolution. So hoping to kind of springboard some of that as well. So yeah.
Are you doing the podcast at all anymore, or from time to
Not
time?
not like routinely like I was. I was doing an episode every week, and I had thrown in some meditations in there, which I might go back to that because that was really resonating with a lot of people. I was getting a lot of feedback on that, of kind of the guided meditations, and I do ASMR, like voiceover stuff. I've done that in the past,
Hmm.
so I know there's something with that. There's a frequency in my voice that seems to come through for people.
Hmm.
So I may kind of look back into that. I will definitely do an audiobook of Castleberry Cove, reading the poems. So that's on the list. I'll probably have Vince do some of the music for that. So
Awesome.
yeah, kind of make it a whole experience. Yeah. So yeah.
That is really exciting stuff. And it's cool that you and Vince can work together like that. When I watched the trailer, I was like, "Oh, this is so awesome!" You know, it's like a team effort. You know, coming together.
Yeah. It's a whole creative situation when you come into this household, because at any given time I'm writing or doing something, he's singing and composing and doing stuff. So yeah, it's a joint effort. Yeah.
That's absolutely cool. Okay, so you do have a website. Can people find your your podcast and everything? I know you can get the book through the website.
Yeah, it's out there on Amazon as well. The link to Amazon's on my website, so it's kind of a one-stop shop. So planetcastleberry.com is where you can go, and it will have all the info that you want. So you can listen to all the episodes there. It's streaming on all platforms, so you can read more about how that all came together. But yeah.
Awesome. Also, the trailer that we play comes from a YouTube channel. Is that where the other material can be found as well?
Yeah, it can be out there as well. So all the links will be on the website. So yeah, you can, if you want to watch it on YouTube. I have had an illustrator that would illustrate an image for each of the podcast episodes. So that image will be up there, and then you can listen to the audio if you prefer to do it that way. So,
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
That's very exciting. Well, I do appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to do this again in the future.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from Vince as well, and some of his music he's creating. So, what else do we have? Do you want to give your web address audibly in case?
Just planetcastleberry.com, and Castleberry is Berry.
Right.
Some people mix up the spelling on the end of that, but yeah, that's kind of the whole brand that everything sits under. And then obviously Castleberry Cove is the book. Poems
Actually,
for the
that's
Journey.
backwards for you guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I know it's always so hard on Zooms and YouTubes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's backwards for me, but they're looking at my screen, so it was probably right for you, wasn't it?
It looked pretty good over here.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with all that. Okay, but the links are below, you guys. So definitely check out her channel. Check out the book, and the book is awesome. So pick it up on Amazon. You can actually look it up directly on Amazon as well if you're on there. If you have an account on there, because it came up for me.
Yeah. It makes a great stocking stuffer, or
Yeah.
if people are looking for, kind of a gift under 10. I'm hearing from a lot of people that it's working for them for Secret Santas and that kind of stuff. I'm like, hey, whatever works for you.
Absolutely. Well, lots of love, light, and unity. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks again, Lori.
Thanks so much, Shane. I appreciate it.
All right, bye-bye.